ba dum bum 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 bum.
Paltiel.
Thank you. You are participant number 3.
Alrighty. Any moment.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, you did, yeah. So we are just below the middle of the second section on page Kufain Dalet. And the line begins with the word Oifan Ho'oir. So we are, you ready? Yes, in the process of identifying 3 different madreges in Oir. And that's why we say Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. That although, in essence, Oir is Oir Atzmi, wherever it is to be found, even where it is with slapshas and kelim. But yet there are 3 madreges. The furthest madrege is when the oil is mislapshas and kelim. And we elaborate on this Inyan, what is slapshas and kelim. Slapshas means that it unites with the keli, that it functions at the level of the keli, recognizes from the oil perspective only things that the keli can relate to.
Is that the lowest level?
Yes. Slapshas and keli. The only things that the keli can relate to. And this is what we say, that the oil becomes kifi oifen hakeli. Where, as we already discussed yesterday, kifi oifen hakeli means clearly the specificity of keli. It's like chesed and gvura and so forth. But specificity also brings along a tangibility, so to speak. A mitzius. So that even though there is still oir hachesed, the element of the oil is that it sheds light on the keli aspect of chesed. As for example, we said chesed is b'mtzius is when there is only somebody to do chesed with. So somebody to do chesed with is the chitzonius of it. This is where the chesed is solicited, where you cannot ignore the need for the chesed. And in a sense, you could say, okay, here's your penny geges unter hate. Leave me alone. It's also chesed. But there isn't a proactive involvement in the chesed. It is chesed out of necessity, out of circumstantial necessity. whether it is, as I now described, just leave me alone, or in a more forthcoming manner. In any case, it is still something that is just a solicited chesed, a created chesed on the Imokim Zman, on the platform. Then the oil comes and it brings light to it and illuminates it, and it says, chesed is a truth in itself. It's a godly truth. So having done this particular act, you have actually revealed godliness in the world. This is not just a good deed in isolation. You've actually revealed godliness. So this is the Oyer HaChesed. Oyer goes back to its source. If you say that this is something which reveals godliness, so you're immediately recognizing, the entire source of the oil and so forth. But godliness brings oil, and in this oil there is the element of chesed. This which the oil becomes kfi oifen hakeli. You understand the chesed from a keli perspective, although it is oil. It's not keli. And then, in like manner, when we say that the keli is also accepting the oil, the keli is also becomes nizdachich, also becomes refined as a result of the fact that the oil illuminates it. This is what we just now illustrated. The keli could be just, here's your penny, you leave me alone. And the keli could be a forthcoming keli, which is the effect of the oil. Some kind of an understanding, a relationship to the recipient, between the giver and the recipient. So the keli is nizdachich. How is it nizdachich? Because it senses, even though its in is a metzius, it senses that there is also a truth. It does not become the truth itself, but it is affected by the truth. And therefore it does not fall downward to the point where it says, there is nothing but the penny that I'm giving you. There is, I can relate to it. This is the union of Yizdachos HaKeli. So the keli
is purified, right?
Purified, yeah. Refinement. Yizdachos is refinement. So the keli becomes kfi oifan ha'oir. It's an anomaly in a plain keli context, in a worldly context, to be forthcoming in giving tzedakah. Why should I give my stuff away? Only if I'm forced to, I'll give it. But if I'm not forced to, why should I give it? Why should I be forthcoming? Why should I be looking for somebody to help him out? Why should I respond to him even if he doesn't ask me? If I see him in distress. That is, so to speak, from the pure keli perspective, it's an anomaly. But because there is also the effect of the oil, so the keli becomes more sensitive. The keli itself becomes more sensitive, and it can accept the sensitivity of the situation. Bishop said he's lapsus. Okay. So here's where we have to. Line begins with oif and ha'oir. As I said, it's just below the middle of that second section.
We haven't seen the third madrega yet, right?
What?
We haven't seen the third madrega.
No, let's see how it goes. Zehu chlolus inyan this represents the general principle of upper and lower sheyesh be'eses sfiras atzilus. Is what is the malo mato that we point to? Bevchinas gilui ha'or. In the element, in the aspect of the gilui ha'or, of to what extent the oil is begilui. Mashameir begilui yoiser. Milo mato is when the oil is made with greater intensity, with greater clarity, and the oil is more preeminent. The more preeminent the oil, it's a high madriga. The whom, and thus this is the betrayer yenodaka yeser, that in a higher and a finer keli meir ha'oir begilu yoser. There the oil shines with greater clarity, with greater revelation. There, in other words, the oil becomes more preeminent, and the keli becomes less demonstrative, less present, less interfering with the oil. As for example, in Chochmah, in Chochmah, where the keli is in very fine state, which means it hardly interferes, hardly plays a role. Kinoida, as is known. So then, oir meir shom begilui oil rav. So then the oil shines there, begilui oil rav, in full glory, in full revelation, and oil rav, and an increased amount of oil, a lot of oil. But the keli is hardly noticeable. Sorry, I'm interrupting. So this in that in Chochmah, the keli is bedakus, and the oil is mea begili oil.
Amen.
There is a keli in Chochmah as well. Chochmah, although we always explain Chochmah is a direct connect to the cognizance of Elokus, where the nefesh, the rotzin and nefesh is in full presence. But we should recognize that despite that, there is a keli element in Chochmah as well. Except that the keli element is bedakus, and therefore the oil is mei begili oil rav. Fine. Dak means thin, very fine. Begili oil rav, with great oil light. So we will now discuss this, as we did before in the general union of Kelim and Eir V'Keli.
What's the union of Milo Mata?
The whole Sifi began to explain that there is higher and lower. There are madreges in Oyer. Look at the first line. we will understand this even better if we take the Gashmistic the demonstration and experience of Chochmah, which is sight. Sight is something which we all recognize, and unfortunately, even that can be obstructed and perverted. But nevertheless, it can easily be reintroduced. We know that in sight we do not see individual objects. Every object that we see is part of the overall reality. This is why it's so real, because they're all part of the greater truth, of the greater reality. And as we know, that I don't have to know, but this is something which we experience, that at a glance, not even a glance, instantaneously, we are observing the entire panorama and everything that's in it, everything that we notice and everything that we don't notice. It's all observed. This is sight. It is not dependent on tangibility, on being affected, of being touched, of being identified with something. It goes straight to the truth itself. It goes straight to the truth itself, to the reality itself. Yet, the experience of sight is affected, and to a great degree is affected by the fact that there are elements, that there are individual pieces in the panorama. The experience of sight would not be a real experience if there weren't any. Like if you look at it, if there was no mountain range, if there was no distinctive elements at all, then sight would not be revealing anything. Even though it is revealing to us on a much more overall, on a much truer level, but that truer level is presented to us through the details that it contains. So there is a keli in sight, except that the keli plays a very minimal role. The keli is to reveal what's behind the keli. It is not to present itself. This is the pshat Chochmah. Chochmah, the principle of Chochmah is to relate directly to the Oir. But how can Oir be revealed? How can we, in Chochmah, which means we're outside of the Oir, how can we actually recognize the Oir? It is through some kind of a presentation. The Keli HaChochmah, which is the means by which Chochmah is revealed, there has to be some element which is currently being illuminated by the Chochmah. Like we say, Chochmah comes revealed in the form of a borog hamavrik, of a fleeting spark of light. This spark of light comes as a result of intense concentration and a dedicated search to recognize some very fine point. The point, but the point that you're looking to recognize. And you're focusing on the point and trying to recognize the truth behind that point. This is the focus. And if there is a concerted effort and a dedication to this recognition, to recognize this, then there is a spark of light that illuminates. What does it illuminate? This is a combination. The light itself is light, is the light coming from the source of light. But you could not see this light if it were not identified with something. This is the point that you're trying to identify, to recognize, to illuminate. So that after the Chokhmah, after that revelation, after that experience, you have something that you can now focus in, and try and get a fuller understanding of the Inyan that you were sought to understand. Yet, even though as I said, there is this illumination, there is the Keli, there is the Inyan that the light has illuminated. But if you do not catch it at the moment, it will evaporate. Because the Keli isn't that tangible. That you already have it now, okay, it's in your pocket. It's not. It is for the moment clear because the light is shining on it. But if you do not at that moment focus in and recognize what it is that you have seen, you have identified, you have recognized, then there is not anything concrete there's nothing to take away. It's a beautiful experience, but there's nothing to take away.
That's the Indian of Havana?
No. That's a beautiful experience, but there's nothing to take away. There is a value to that experience too. And what is the value of that experience? As we always say, I've seen that there is a truth. That is powerful enough to keep the person afloat, not to fall away. I know that there is a truth. But to take it with you and to actually incorporate it, so to speak, in your thinking, in your life, doesn't work, doesn't go. You have to now first begin to work on it. And the reason for this is because the Chokhmah, the Kli HaChokhmah, is so bedakus that you hardly even sense it. The spark of light came as a result of your seeking it, but the preeminent experience, preeminent revelation is that it's light, that it's true, that it makes sense, that it's right, but not how it is right and what's right about it. That's part of the Keli. That is not the preeminent. The preeminent is you know that it's right. This is the Oyer HaChokhmah. In other words, there is the Oyer preeminently. The Keli is present. So here in Chokhmah, because the Keli is so evasive, so fine, so minimally limiting, minimally interfering with the Oyer. So the Oyer, even though the Oyer is being slapshus in Keli, this is the big thing. The Oyer is being slapshus in the Keli. This is how the Oyer came to be revealed in the first place. But it is being slapshus in the Keli in full glory. Begilui Oyer Rav. As if there were no Keli. The truth is, it is not. You cannot have this Oyer without the Keli. The Oyer without the Keli is on a completely different level. But this oil also counts with Gilui Rav as if there were no Keli. But you recognize the truth as such. There is a truth. This is what you say over here. That's the top level of Kodesh, right? The oil, Beis Lapshus and Kliya and Kelim of Atzilus, we have multiple different levels in there, and the defining factor of these levels is what type of keli is involved. When the keli is bedakus yoser, so then the oil is become, and the keli is not only preeminent, but the oil comes begilui rav with the full impact of oil is recognized. And then, so that the reason to sense, oh, I had a kasha, I have an answer. That's way beyond the kasha and the answer. It's like seeing beyond the whole question. This is the Ora Chochmah. V'chein and similarly, just as we've identified the upper madregi in Chochmah, the Kliya Chochmah, similarly, b'meichin, in moichin in general, moichin which includes already bina and das, moichin in general, hagilui b'yoyser mi b'mideis, mishakosi b'mokimach. The gilui in moichin in general is greater than it is in midas. Again, the similar difference, but now we're saying not just in chokhmah, but we're saying in bina and das, in moichin in general. The oil is in greater revelation than in midas. So this is not elaborated over here, but this is quite clear. One, just to put it in perspective, in some grasp on this Indian, the primary difference between moichin and midos is that moichin is focused on knowing what is true, what is right. Midos are focused on the functionality of that. How does that translate in action? In action or in actual relationship? Like we said before, chesed, that the metzius of chesed, it is altogether a circumstantial thing. There is somebody who needs chesed, all of a sudden there is that element of chesed. Mitzad the oira chesed, there is a truth to it. But even within the realm of the truth, within the realm of the oir, by definition, chesed means a relationship, whereas moichin is not involved in the relationship element. Moichin is involved in receiving from above. What is the truth recognized? Where is the godly truth? Where is the rotzen hanefesh? This is moichin in general. So even though that in bina and in das there is an actual grasp and there's a real keli, But even in the whole keli, the whole grasp is for the purpose of knowing, not performing. Knowing the truth, knowing the reality. And knowing the reality, what kind of presence is that? If you're not dealing with functionality, with what am I going to do with it? So what is this knowledge based on? What is it? What are you involved in? The world, it has to have functionality. If you are not talking about functionality, you're talking about knowing, that means that you are recognizing the source, the truth, the godly truth. I want to know how things are from a godly perspective. That's generally speaking what moichin is. And then I apply it to the world. But moichin, say that in that. So therefore, in moichin, the union of oil is preeminent. Even in Reichen in general, not only in Chochmah, but in Bina and Das. And this is in fact the reason that Bina can relate to Chochmah. Bina is a keli for Chochmah. Even though you say Chochmah is in a category by itself, it is in a category by itself. But Bina can accept, can relate to it, because Bina has a certain great similarity to Chochmah. It is a keli, and it is wants to have a grasp, but the grasp is for the purpose to grasp the truth, not to grasp and to walk and to translate it in worldly terms. So Bina is a keli to Chochmah. That's why Chochmah and Bina are called trained in this passion. They are basically referred to on equal levels. So nevertheless, there is Chochmah, which is on a category itself. Then there is Moichin, and then there's Midas. These are all very different madregas of oir. Even though throughout oir essentially is an oir atzmi. And here is where we're going to interrupt till tomorrow, Mr. Shem.
Is there any way we can do the evening class on Wednesday? Because of the menorah parade? I don't know if anybody else is doing that.
When is my parade? Thursday?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. It's okay with me, I think.
Regular time, just Thursday. Or just Wednesday.
Okay.